We just watched Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 7, The Eye. What are your thoughts?
I thought it was pretty good. We were a little cooler on the last episode, but I think this one was more so what I would like to see for, an average episode going forwards. And yeah, it was probably like a 7 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I similar thoughts, like is above average in terms of this show, but definitely kind of the standard we want to see moving forward. So I also gave it a 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I think what worked well for me was it touched on every single storyline that's been going on so far, or all of the groups, and it's better that way for me because you're not like going, oh, why don't you go back to, I don't know, Durin and Elrond when you have an episode that's like Harfoot human focused. It's nice to get like those little parts, even if they're only a few minutes, of each storyline. Or like with this one, they had Durin and Elrond in it, versus like the last few episodes, or some of the other episodes where it was like just humans, or mostly humans and just a little bit of Harfoot, and then none of the elf story. I like that it was, everything, and I think it balanced it well.
Yeah, definitely good to see all 3 storylines now instead of 4. And I thought that was another thing that was good, was combining the 2, like the Numenor and the Southlander storylines. I thought that worked really well, which is kind of what we thought going into this episode. Like once those...
It worked so well that I almost forgot that they were separate.
Yeah. And like, the only thing I worry about is that they'll go back to Numenor with a subplot, and then we'll have 4 plot lines again. And I don't think that would work as well as just focusing on the characters who are all now in the Southlands.
Yeah, but I think that they might be going back to Numenor. Isn't that what the Queen was pointing towards, that she was going back?
To gather their strength and then kind of
come
fight
back
the
to
whole
Middle-earth.
thing. Yeah, I guess that was hinted at. I just think maybe the characters will stick together, like Arondir, Galadriel, all them.
Yeah.
Of course, Isildur is going to be doing his own thing.
Actually, I just remembered. They probably will split them up again, to Galadriel and Arondir doing their own thing, because the humans are moving to a different area in Middle-earth.
Oh, that's right.
Galadriel is still hunting Sauron. And I think Elendil and Galadriel will be a grouping, because he's going to probably stay behind for Isildur, since we're led to believe he's dead or missing. So he could either accept that, or they'll have him searching for him.
Yeah, speaking of Isildur, I don't buy that he's dead at all.
There's no way he's dead, because he has to try and cast the ring into the fires of Mount Doom during the battle with Sauron, like at the end of the Second Age.
Yeah, exactly. So it wouldn't make sense to kill him off.
It's a really redundant red herring, because it's like, we know.
Yeah.
We already know where that's going. But I guess there's
out.
Quite a few people. With the show, they're trying to expand the audience for Lord of the Rings and like the mythology. So I think they're banking on people not remembering, some of the character names.
Yeah, and it was like one line in the show pretty much. Or in the movie, sorry. The Isildur, cast it into the fire!
Yeah, or like you'll hear like Isildur's heir.
That's true, yeah.
It doesn't really resonate if you're not paying attention.
Yeah, or it's been a long time since you've seen it, something like that. Speaking of those storylines, the pairing we had this episode was we had Theo and Galadriel kind of paired up.
Honestly, thought it worked really well.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts too.
Theo I've come around on, because like when they first time he was like that sniveling little like evil kid who's annoying, like an evil to an annoying degree because he's just dumb. And then now they're kind of having him like grow into his own character, not just like this archetype. So I think it's working a lot better.
Yeah, the only thing I need to see from Theo is a better wardrobe. They're doing him dirty with the rags.
Yeah, I would like them to at least give him a second layer of clothes, like to flesh out his look a little bit.
Get him out of the potato sack that he's wearing.
Yeah, I think that would actually go a long ways for him on screen. It would make give his character a bit more weight than just some pleb who is in potato sacks. Like,
yeah, for sure. We had not much more of Hallbrand. He seems to be injured now.
Well, it was weird. He was bedridden, and then all of a sudden, as soon as Galadriel shows up, and she's like, "Oh, we're gonna go check something out," he's like, "All right, I'm out of bed. Like, let's go." So we know something's up with Hallbrand. Like you and I suspected that, after last episode, he is Sauron, and I can't wait for how that twist is going to be revealed, because it's either going to be very painful. It's probably just going to be painful for me and like groan worthy. I hope they do it good enough that like come season 2 it's not that bad.
Yeah,
you can almost like forgive it for doing that, like
okay, they actually kind of pulled it off kind of reaction versus oh my goodness, we saw this coming the whole time kind of reaction.
Like one of those things is like, I was hoping that wouldn't happen, but they did it anyways.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got the human story was just them recovering from the explosion at Mount Doom. Not too much happening there. I guess the queen is blind now, and they're heading back to Numenor. Humans are splitting off to another area. That's all that really happened. And then we got the Harfoot. I think the Harfoots with the stranger was probably the biggest.
They all had their own weight, honestly. It was well balanced in that way.
Yeah, it wasn't that one was overshadowing the other. But with the stranger, those 3, I don't know, like the one looks like Slim Shady. I like...
We don't know what to call them except for the evil Slim Shady looking people, because that's all
we don't know who they are. And they haven't even spoken. So anyways, the stranger heads towards like a human settlement. The evil people roll in and attack the Harfoots, and now Nori, her mom, Poppy, and Sadik are heading off to go get the stranger and warn him about the evil.
Yeah, and that grouping...
I like it a lot. I'll tell you, out of all the characters they could have picked, those are probably the most interesting. Maybe not the mum so
exactly
much.
What I was going to say. Without the mum, that'd be prime, but it's possible the mum can bring some depth into that grouping that maybe it wouldn't have had otherwise. But
I would like to see less like, "Oh, Nori, don't do this," or whatever. Like, less scolding, I guess, and tisking towards her. I think, like, if you said, like, if you just had Sadik and Poppy and Nori, Sadik, like, rounds that group out a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But, I hope they write the mum into it, like, give her more of a character rather than just, like, the doting mother.
Yeah. I mean, I just thought of what option B would be, which would be to pull an emotional twist and kill off the mom, like,
I think
partway into the journey.
That's so cheap.
It's possible it happens, though.
If it happens, I mean, I'll say you called it, but I just hope that's not the case. They need to give them more time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the end of the Harfoot stranger storyline for the episode, and then we have Elrond and Durin again. And Durin is trying to convince his father, Durin, to let them mine the mithril. And then he goes against his father's wishes and starts mining it anyways, trying to find a vein to help the elves heal the sickness that's in their lands. And it was kind of interesting because, like, a lot of that, like, oh, how would the mithril heal them, right? Like, it's very up in the air, or, like, not explained. It seems very mystical.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to see in the episode that mithril crystal heal the darkness from the leaf. So I guess, like, it makes sense, like, visually. It gave us, like, a visual to be like, oh, okay, I guess that's how it works.
Yeah, not really a mechanism, but more of a, like, well, if it's close enough, it, like, gains some life force, blah, 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 kind of general, like, not actually trying to explain it, but just showing that it works.
Yeah, so I'm assuming, like, this is kind of how my brain put it together of how they would apply it in Linden, would be to possibly, like, infuse it into structures around.
Yeah, something like that. I think another
necklaces.
option was to have every elf wear something mithril.
Yeah.
And then it, like, keeps them strong and keeps them alive. And the big part of that storyline, though, I thought, was Durin and his fallout with his father, Durin.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he disowned his son, and now it's kind of like got to go a different way about this. And so that's what's hopefully coming up next episode, is how is Durin gonna,
Come back from
get the
that.
mithril without, the authority that he used to have.
Yeah. And a tease that they had in the episode was we get to see the Balrog, I think, as the stinger of that storyline. But, I mean, it's cool. It looked good. But the one thing that I kind of wish that they did, and I know that, like, you can wish as much as you want, but that's not the show that we got. But I think it would have been a little bit more powerful instead of just doing the, hey, remember this? Because we already saw the Balrog a couple episodes ago in storytelling. It would have been a little neater narratively to have them, like, have the Balrog as, like, impending doom. Not necessarily, like, you see it, but the mountain shakes a bit more, and you could just tell, like, something is coming the more that they dig, and it's more metaphorical at first, and then maybe you show the Balrog and have that as, like, a big set piece of, like, dwarves trying to fight it off and, like, get out of the mines or something.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see what they do with it.
Yeah, I don't anticipate it coming to fruition this season, considering we only have, I believe, one episode left.
I think that's the biggest thing for me, is that, like, it seemed too quick to show the Balrog. Like, they're, like, fast-tracking certain parts that I think should be slower and, like, build on it, create a little bit more tension over time to, like, or, like, emotional investment in the storyline. And then once the downfall happens, it's like, oh my god. Like, it's one of those episodes,
Yeah, I think they should have introduced it in season 1 regardless, but maybe saving it for the last episode so it's, like, doesn't feel like they have to follow up in episode 8.
Oh,
but they
like,
have
do the
time
lead up to season 2.
They have time to develop it throughout season 2 instead of showing it, in this episode where it feels like they have to do something with it in this next episode. Otherwise, it seems kind of pointless because it came too early.
Yeah, and then if you do it at the end of the season, if we're excited for a second season, it could be like, oh, I can't wait to see, like, what they do with the Balrog. Instead of being like, wait, didn't they show that and they didn't do anything with it?
Mm-hmm.
But I'm sure it'll come back up in the season 2, which, like we said last time, it's had started filming. So, pretty, honestly, after this episode and talking about it, my outlook on a second season with the show that we got is a little bit better.
I am still holding on to my opinion because I think the quality of episode 8 will really
determine your interest.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if it falls back down to the earlier episode's quality, then it'd be like, well, like, they had one good episode, but overall, versus, like, if episode 8 is good, it's going to be like, oh, the last couple episodes, they really rounded into form, and, like, I'm excited now. But if it was just like an anomaly, then I'm not in.
And you just reminded me of something, is like the first 3/4 of the episode, I was like, pretty good. Like, I'm kind of liking this, right? I'm enjoying watching the show, this episode. And then the last little bit of that episode, they start to go into like the like a little cheesy and like doing lots of callbacks that I generally don't like those unless they're done subtly, But the Balrog was very on the nose. And then the second thing that came up was, Sir, what shall we call this new land after the explosion? And Adar goes, he doesn't even say it. It's just like on the screen.
Text on screen
goes from Southlands to Mordor. And I think you and I both audibly groaned. We're like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, they were going to do it, but like, it was so cheesy.
There could have been a way better way of doing it, and like the one that comes to mind is having the orcs call it like a ancestral name or something,
like dark speak name, or
like in their tongue Mordor means something else, and like it's like taking it back instead of just being like a new name, you say.
Yeah, kind of like it reminded me of like the Fantastic Four from 2015 when they're like, what should we call ourselves? Fan, and then like doesn't finish the sentence, really cheesy. But I think that kind of covers everything that happened in the episode.
Yeah, like again, the elf dwarf scenes some of the highlights. The grouping for the Harfoots, looking forward to that. Southlands, they already hit the climax of the season, it feels like, so...
I want some more Theo Arondir development, like relationship development, because, you know, he's going to be with Bronwyn, and I feel like Arondir and Theo have barely, like, spoken. Even, like, Arondir and Bronwyn have barely spoken about anything substantial. You know, so I want to see just, like, characterization.
I don't know if they can even salvage those characters in that way. Like having Theo with Galadriel worked, having Arondir with like someone else might work, but that grouping those three of them together, I just don't see it working, period, with the types of characters they are.
Here's what my vision is, okay? You send Arondir on a mission with Theo, and the whole thing is that, like, his reasoning for, like, being with Theo is, like, oh, he's interested in the mother, right? So they have to develop, like, a father-son relationship on a mission to do whatever. And Bronwyn, you kind of slowly edge her out of the picture, and then it's maybe a little bit more impactful when they meet up again. And then, like, you could see that his love for her is not just love to be with her, but love for, like, her family and, like, value. Like, he's trying to instill values with Theo and stuff. Like, I think that could work.
I just, again, don't buy it with the characters, so I think they need a new setting to...
New approach.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Things that we're looking forward to for next episode?
I'll give you one thing I'm not looking forward to, which is honestly going back to Numenor. I felt that the same characters in new settings really felt like it was moving the story forward a lot more than staying in the same setting for the entire first half of the season. I thought it gave them opportunities to explore the characters a bit better, which isn't something they did very well in the earlier episodes. So that being said, on the flip side of that is like Nori and her posse leaving the Harfoot like clan to do their own thing. Like, that'll bring about some new stuff
and new adventures, new things to see.
Yeah, so that's exciting.
Yeah, looking forward to the Harfoot stranger, or the Harfoot journey, and then kind of like hopefully they make the stranger his own character now, like without being just a mute. Mm-hmm. Like if they keep him mute, fine, but more personal interactions. That's what I'm looking forward to. With that, the Elrond Durin thing, they, you know, consistently good, so just I want more of that. And then with the humans Numenor thing, I'm a little bit like you. It's like going back to Numenor might take away from when they go, if they continue that storyline on screen, it could take away from development in other areas that would seemingly be more important. So I want Galadriel to maybe become a little bit more 3D, but it's really hard to say where they go from now because they lost, right? And then I think next episode we're going to get into the forging of the Rings of Power, potentially, you know, considering it's the namesake of the show. I think that's going to close out the season, and I think they're going to reveal who Sauron and the Stranger are. But, you know, those were just our thoughts on Lord of the Rings of Power, Season 1, Episode 7. If you liked our discussion, leave a like. If you want to see more, hit the subscribe button. If you have any comments at all, leave them in the comment section down below, and we will bring them up next time. See you next episode.